everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Positive Proof Podcast. I'm your host, Parmis, and I'm so glad that you're here. If you want to listen to more episodes like this one on self-improvement, mindset, and wellness, go ahead and hit that follow button to join the family. It has been quite some time since we last chatted, and truth is, life just got in the way. I've actually had quite a few changes happen in my life since then, from moving to a new house in the city, ending a 4-year relationship, entering a new relationship, battling anxiety and depression, quitting my job, getting rehired at my job, and finally finding true happiness and fulfillment. So a lot of inner work had to be done, and I most definitely needed some time to heal before I could come on here and give you guys sound advice. So throughout the upcoming episodes, I'm going to share bits and pieces of my experience in hopes that it can resonate with one of you and hopefully help you a little bit in whatever you're dealing with. Today, we're diving into something that impacts us all, the flaws in our society. And these aren't just boring, distant issues we hear about on the news or read in books. They're things we live with every single day, whether we're aware of them or not. Because the thing is, we have more technology than ever, and yet so many of us feel more isolated than ever. We have endless entertainment options, yet we're often experiencing symptoms of boredom, restlessness, or dissatisfaction. We live in an age of hustle culture where success feels like it's a literal never-ending race. It's tiring. And at the same time, we're told to find balance and inner peace. It really doesn't make sense. We have the temptation of overconsumption surrounding us everywhere we turn, from social media feeding us the next must-have product to the normalized cycle of buying more, throwing out more, and really never feeling entirely content. Why is it like this? How did we even get here? The good news, these flaws aren't permanent. They're not something we have to resign ourselves to, and none of these problems are entirely new. What is new, though, is the scale and speed at which these flaws affect our daily lives today, because we're dealing with a tsunami of advertisements, comparison metrics, or societal pressures that really our ancestors have never had to face quite to the same extent. Now, by the time you've listened to this entire episode, my goal is that you'll walk away feeling not just more aware of these societal pitfalls, but also more empowered to tackle them in your everyday life. Because here's the thing, if enough of us do things differently, if we collectively choose a more conscious, balanced path, society has no choice but to shift as well. And even if we take the societal shift out of the picture, the more important thing here is that you yourself will feel so much happier. We're going to be talking about 4 major flaws, including living beyond our means, overconsumption, the toxicity of hustle culture, and the high standard of living expectations. Oh, and one last one is the disconnection from self, losing touch with our needs, basically. I'm going to share stories, examples, solutions, and reflections to help us break free from these societal traps and really allow us to cleanse from these toxic tendencies. So grab a coffee or tea, find a cozy spot, or go on a walk, and let's get into it. Let's start with the first flaw I see far too often, living beyond our means. Now, this one is sneaky because it's not always about big, flashy purchases. It can be subtle overspending or the inability to say no to convenience, or even societal pressure to, quote, keep up that pushes us into financial stress. We've got credit cards, we've got personal loans, the whole buy now, pay later schemes. They're everywhere. And why do we do it? Well, a lot of it comes down to societal conditioning. We have been taught that success is visible. If you're doing well, you should have the car, the house, the clothes to show it. But here's the truth. Real financial health, it doesn't care about appearances. It's about having stability and options, not impressing others. So you're probably asking, how do we overcome this? Well, one way around this is budgeting. You need to make peace with the numbers. Understand what you have, what you owe, and where your money's going. There's apps like Mint, there's apps like You Need a Budget. These can all be lifesavers to help you budget. And another thing you can also do is adopt the 50-30-20 rule, where you allocate 50% of your income to needs, 30% to wants, and 20% to savings or debt repayment. It doesn't matter if you're making a ton of money or very little money, there is a budget for every income. Even the person making millions will need to know where their money is going. Otherwise, next thing you know, they're buying the private jet that they can't afford or the island they've been wanting to. Like every tax bracket has a budget. Also, one more thing. Piggy banks are so underrated. I miss the days we used to get so excited to add to it, let alone finally open the full piggy bank of cash. I think that's a great way of building that excitement again around saving money, so you should look into it. The next thing is value-based spending. Ask yourself, does this purchase align with my values and goals? Or delay that gratification on a purchase. Before making the big purchase, wait 24 hours, and more often than not, the urge to buy, it will fade. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll have shopping carts open with things that catch my eye, and I'll just leave the tab open for just a few days. After the few days, I've forgotten about those things, which indicate to me that, okay, these things clearly weren't that important. Or I clearly didn't need those things if I haven't run into any issues the past few days. But other times, for example, I've been needing a pair of jeans because the ones in my closet are too small. And so I notice on a daily basis that, okay, I have no jeans to wear and I seriously need a new pair. So that online shopping cart that's been sitting there actually makes sense to go through with. The next thing is embracing minimalism. Living with less doesn't mean deprivation. It means focusing on what truly adds value to your life. I have a ton of clothes in my closet, but there's only a select few that I rewear all the time because they truly add value by being either comfortable or stylish. A lot of people overspend on gadgets, for example, for their home. I see these Amazon finds videos all the time with the craziest inventions to take on simple daily tasks. And although some of them can be really cool and genuinely make your life easier, a lot of them are unnecessary and actually take time and effort to either operate the gadget or clean the gadget, maintain the gadget. So please ditch the gadgets and stop hoarding them. The next one is embracing contentment. Finding ways to appreciate what you already have is so important. In many ways, this ties back to gratitude practices, which I know is cliche and you probably hear it all the time. But instead of automatically chasing the next best thing, whether it's the latest gadget again or a bigger house, take stock of what you already own. Do you really need a new phone if yours still works perfectly? Because I see people buying the new iPhone every single year when it comes out, and I think it is so ridiculous. Or for example, can you repair or upcycle something instead of discarding it? There's tons of tailors and cobblers or places you can make your current things you own brand new, so think about that more often. The next one is personal autonomy. If your expenses are low relative to your income, you're less bound to external demands. Maybe you don't have to stay in a toxic job because it's the only way to pay a massive mortgage or finance a lavish lifestyle. You only gain the freedom to make career shifts or take leave off of work or invest time in passion projects because your financial needs are manageable. Like, the only reason I was able to quit my job for a whole year and still travel, shop, live, try new things is because I lived below my means enough to build up a savings that could give me the freedom to make a decision like that. The next one is learning to distinguish between needs and wants. This can be surprisingly hard in a world of endless advertising, but a good rule of thumb is to pause before making any purchase and ask yourself, do I need this or do I want it? Why do I want it? Will it add substantial value to my life, or is this just an impulse? I can promise you 90% of the time, it's just an impulse. I can't tell you how many people I personally know that live such an extravagant lifestyle, but are all in debt. It's quite sad, and I wish more people would realize this so they can actually live a happy life and not a life for others. I will say marketing does play a role because companies spend billions to convince us that happiness can be bought. For example, have you ever noticed how commercials link products to emotions? Like those car commercials, they're not just about having a car. It's about the freedom, the status, the family time. And what this does, it creates a psychological pull, making us believe that without these products, we're somehow less worthy. And social media, on the other hand, it doesn't help. It amplifies that pressure to appear successful. It's not enough to live comfortably. We feel the need to show it. And what this does is it often leads to overspending on things we don't actually value. But remember, it's not about living frugally forever. It's about aligning your spending with what truly matters. It also doesn't mean living with less. It means living smarter. It's about controlling your money so it doesn't control you. Don't be like everyone else, where as soon as they see an increase in their income, they're going to get the bigger house or the bigger car. What everyone does nowadays is they spend everything they have. The person making $1 million a year, they go and buy that mansion and spend that $1 million a year. The person making $50K a year spends all that $50K on a car. That's just not the way to live, and honestly, it's not smart at all. Let's pivot to overconsumption. It's closely tied to living beyond our means, I know, but it extends far beyond our finances. This time, it's not just about money. It's about consuming too much of everything. For example, clothes, gadgets, food, media. How often do we binge watch shows or overeat or chase superficial connections, all in the name of more? Our culture, it glorifies the more is better mentality. Why is this so common though? Advertising. It's all down to advertising. I work in marketing. Trust me, I know. We're bombarded with messages telling us we're not enough until we have that new phone or that trending product. And again, social media doesn't help either because it turns consumption into a competition. We have reached a point where people often consume not out of necessity, but out of habit or emotion or desire for social status. And what this does is it leads to cluttered homes, credit card debt, wasted resources, throwaway culture. And let me tell you a little bit about the psychology of consumption. Buying triggers a dopamine release, giving us this temporary high. Keyword here, temporary. But like any addictive behavior, the happiness fades really quickly. And what this does is it leaves us craving more. This cycle is so hard to break because it's deeply ingrained in our culture. So how do we combat this? Well, the first thing you can do is be more conscious of your consumption. Before buying something, again, ask yourself, do you truly need it? And will it add value to your life? Same thing with food. Ask yourself, are you really hungry right now? Or are you going to be emotionally eating? Will that food benefit your body or will it harm your body? Same thing with social media. Do you really need that extra 10 minutes scrolling through TikTok and Instagram? Or is it at a point of overconsumption where you just don't feel like getting up to do the daily tasks you've been meaning to do? The next one is decluttering. Clearing physical clutter, it clears mental clutter too. It's really, truly amazing how these two are so directly connected. Every single time I've done a closet clean out or a deep clean, I have felt so much more at peace. It's almost as if I've done a full lifestyle cleanse. And a good rule of thumb is if you can go through the items in your space and you notice you haven't touched them in the past 2 years, then it needs to be thrown away. I'm telling you, decluttering can be such a liberating process. And I know it might feel tough at first, especially if you have sentimental attachments to certain items or if you're used to retail therapy as a pick-me-up. But once you experience the mental clarity that comes with a simplified space, you realize that fewer possessions actually equal more peace of mind. The next one is choosing quality over quantity. Minimalism doesn't necessarily mean living in a stark white room with one chair and no decoration. I know at some point that's what minimalism meant, but modern minimalism is a little bit different. Rather, it means aligning your surroundings with your values and only keeping items that truly bring you joy, utility, or beauty. When you start taking these steps to pare down your possessions and focus on quality over quantity, you're going to notice such an immediate reduction in your stress. You will be shocked. You will be shocked. So invest in items that last or buy organic whole foods, for example, rather than all the items in the junk food aisle, or spend your screen time watching videos that teach you something rather than watching 30-second highlight reels over and over and over again. The next one is defining your own enough, which I feel like nobody ever does because it's always dream bigger, especially once you've achieved something. Okay, on to the next big thing. One of the most radical acts in a society that is always pushing for more is to determine your own metric of enough. At what point do you feel like it's enough for you? At what point do you feel like your house is big enough for you? At what point do you feel like the car is good enough for you or the clothes in your closet are good enough for you? You need to define enough for yourself. You can't always be pushing for more. Otherwise, you will never, ever reach happiness. And I can promise you that. What does a fulfilling life look like for you? How much money do you genuinely need to live comfortably? How do you allocate your time in ways that enrich your life rather than deplete it? This personal definition of enough, it serves as a compass, guiding your decisions and helping you resist external pressures. Next one is creating sustainable habits and not just quick fixes. Anyone can try a shopping ban for a week. I've actually done it before. I put it on my calendar where I said, this is a no-buy month or a digital detox for a weekend. I've done that too before. None of them are really effective. I think they're great breaks to give yourself, but I don't think they're effective long-term. They're just quick fixes. The real work happens when these behaviors become part of your lifestyle. So gradually incorporate habits like meal planning or digital decluttering or weekly reflections on your spending, your time. You'll start to see that these small changes build upon each other and transform the way you navigate society's pressures. For example, if you learn to unfollow all the accounts that make you feel like you're comparing yourself all the time, and if you set a certain time in the day where you go on social media and do not touch it any other time, you're going to build that discipline and you're going to build that lifestyle habit. And that's going to be a sustainable way of life, not just a digital detox for the weekend. And same thing with shopping or anything else in life. Overcoming overconsumption, again, it's not about consuming less, it's about regaining control and focusing on what really matters. Now let's talk about hustle culture. My favorite, and I say my favorite because I struggle with this one the most. You know, the whole rise and grind, sleep is for the weak mentality. And listen, while ambition and hard work are great, hustle culture takes it to such an extreme and it glorifies burnout and it equates self-worth with productivity, and that is not okay. Hustle culture is just not sustainable and it is so unhealthy. And honestly, it's not effective either. The problem is that hustle culture, it thrives on fear, right? It thrives on the fear of falling behind, the fear of being seen as lazy, the fear of not achieving enough. And it's a trap because no matter how hard you work, there's always someone doing more and it makes you feel like you're not good enough. And social media also plays a large role because we see influencers promoting the benefits of waking up at 4 a.m., running a marathon, and then they launch a startup all before breakfast, which can make us feel lazy if we're barely squeezing in a cup of coffee and a commute in the morning. And to be fair, yes, I'm also the girl that wakes up at 5 a.m. depending on the season of life or year that I'm in. But it's not about what content is put out there. It's about allowing yourself to consume that content and then deciding what to do with it. If someone is a morning person and they like to be inspired by morning routines, then by all means consume those videos and let it benefit you in that way. But if you're fine and you're already productive and content waking up at 9 a.m., then maybe that type of content is not for you. We end up treating ourselves like machines that can be fine-tuned for maximum output, like these robots, and we forget that we're literal human beings. We need downtime. We need social connections and creative expression outside of work. Over the long run, hustle culture is going to erode mental and physical health. It's going to strain personal relationships, and it's going to contribute to a pervasive sense of never being enough. So you're probably wondering, okay, how do we escape this? Because it's everywhere. Well, first thing you're going to do is you're going to redefine success. Success, it's not just about career achievements. It's also about health and relationships and joy. It's almost as if people forget that we can allow ourselves to enjoy life. Instead of seeing success solely through the lens of productivity and income, we can learn to recognize other forms of success, such as having balanced relationships, a healthy body, emotional well-being, and a sense of contribution to our communities. Think of success more holistically. If you're constantly tired or anxious or even just disconnected from loved ones, is it really worth it to have an extra 10,000 followers or a slightly larger bank account? You tell me. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to set boundaries. Learn to say no. Protect your time and energy. It is so valuable. Work hours are for work. Protect your personal time so fiercely. If your workplace expects late night emails and weekend responses, it might be time for a frank conversation about healthier work-life balance. Or on a personal level, think about whether your hustle is truly serving you or if it's becoming a habit spurred on by anxiety or social pressure. Are you working on weekends not because you need to, but because you feel guilty if you're not productive? Consciously create these little pockets of rest in your schedule, time to be rather than do. I know myself, at one point I was working 24/7 and my gosh, I was so exhausted. But I know now that I deliberately need to schedule in that rest time, otherwise I will reach a point of burnout. Next thing you're gonna do, which is directly tied with setting boundaries, is you're gonna prioritize your rest. Rest is productive. It actually fuels creativity and decision-making and overall well-being. So literally, rest is not laziness. It's essential for creativity, focus, and overall well-being. I know myself, I am my absolute sharpest when I've gotten enough sleep and I take my greens in the morning. And I just know when everything is in check, the quality of my work always increases. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to celebrate the small wins. Not every success has to be monumental. You're going to appreciate the progress you make daily, and it can be as simple as completing the task you've been putting off. Sometimes I do this all the time. I put off a task for so long that I get frustrated with myself, and when I do complete it, I'm like, oh, I should have completed that so long ago. But no, that deserves recognition. I clearly put it off because it wasn't a priority, and I was putting my time towards other things that were priorities. So just the fact that I even got it off my to-do list is worth celebrating. Everyone in today's society is rushing to make millions of dollars, or rushing to buy that house, or rushing to buy that car. Everyone is in such a rush to achieve these big goals at such a young age, and nobody has the patience anymore to build a life where you see stable and consistent progress. I can promise you, if you can celebrate small wins and focus on those daily basics, you're going to be surprised by how much you can achieve long term. On the other hand, that person who doesn't have the patience to celebrate small wins and is constantly thinking about the finish line will most likely feel lost along the way. They're probably going to work backwards, if anything, and live a life of misery. In fact, you'll probably reach the goal much faster than that person. The power of small wins is much stronger than you think. Next thing you're going to do, just like you redefine success, you're going to redefine productivity. Focus on working smarter, not harder. You've heard it before. I know you have. So listen up and you're going to apply it. It's not about how much you do, but how effectively you do it. So begin to value rest, relationships, and personal growth just as much as we value career advancement. This shift in mindset, it's not only going to foster mental and emotional well-being, but also, ironically, it can lead to greater creativity and productivity in the long run. In this way, we're operating from a place of balance rather than perpetual depletion. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to pick up some hobbies that aren't achievement-based or goal-attached. And this could be hiking, gardening, reading novels purely for pleasure, or playing music. Mine is volleyball. And these hobbies remind us that not everything in life needs to be a side hustle or a stepping stone to something else. Sometimes the point is just to enjoy and explore. And this way, you don't have that pressure always on your back. You don't have that weight on your back. You can just relax and enjoy. And isn't it so sweet to have something you can look forward to that doesn't pressure you in any way? At the end of the day, hustle culture benefits corporations more than it does individuals. It's great for the bottom line of businesses if employees are willing to sacrifice their health and personal life for the sake of productivity, but it's really not sustainable for us humans. I'll tell you this, hustle culture may promise success, but more often than not, it actually delivers burnout. So how about we choose balance instead? Because remember, you're not a machine. Life is about balance, not burnout. Life's richness, it often comes from quieter moments, not just the high-octane hustle. I know for myself, my richest moment in life, it comes from the days where I'm cooking dinner with my boyfriend in the kitchen with a nice mellow song in the background to dance to while we wait for our food to be ready, or the days I get to sit down with my mom at 5 p.m. after work just to have coffee and simply catch up. I share these examples because at a time in my life where I was doing the most, I really wasn't able to enjoy or experience moments like this, and I couldn't believe what I was missing the moment I decided to step back and actually have me some downtime. Now we're going to shift to the last societal flaw, which is the increasing emphasis on maintaining a high standard of living. Everywhere you look, there's a pressure to drive the nicest car, live in a beautifully curated home, and travel to luxurious destinations. These expectations, they're not just for the wealthy anymore, though. They've trickled down to the middle and even lower income groups, which is shocking, I know. But where did these expectations come from? It's the rise of social media that's played such a significant role in shaping this mindset. Platforms like Instagram and TikTok, they showcase lifestyles that seem so achievable for everyone, but in reality, they're really often far from accessible. For example, influencers post travel vlogs to exotic places or daily outfit changes in the designer clothes and perfectly decorated homes. And while it's inspiring, this content can actually be really unrealistic benchmarks for what's considered normal. And I'm giving this advice because I myself am also on the other end as the influencer who showcases her lifestyle. And back in the day, what's interesting is that people's lifestyles were more closely tied to their income. But now, thanks to easy credit cards and payment plans, it's actually possible to appear wealthy while struggling behind the scenes. But now, thanks to easy credit cards and payment plans, it's actually possible to appear wealthy while you're struggling behind the scenes. And this creates such a dangerous cycle because people stretch their finances so thin to maintain appearances, leaving really little room for savings, investments, or future planning. Now, the issue comes from the refusal to compromise. One of the most concerning aspects of this trend is the unwillingness to compromise. Many people prioritize maintaining this high standard of living over securing their future. For example, renting luxury apartments instead of saving for the purchase of a home, or leasing expensive cars rather than paying off debt, or spending heavily on travel and entertainment while neglecting long-term savings. And this isn't to say that enjoying life is wrong, far from it, but when short-term pleasures consistently take precedence over long-term stability, it becomes a problem. And I constantly see on social media the whole trend where it's like, money comes and goes, but I'll never be in my 20s again with the ability to travel this, and this. Who made that rule? Because it's the silliest thing I've ever heard. Now, some questions to ask yourself is how much of my spending is influenced by wanting to keep up with others, or what areas of my life could I simplify without sacrificing happiness? By letting go of the need to maintain appearances and focusing on what truly matters, we can actually build a life that feels so rich in every sense of the world. It starts with one simple step though. One simple step. Not caring what other people think. Who are they to have such an importance on the way you live your life? And how sad is it to live a life for them rather than for yourself? Give yourself a wake-up call, because to care what other people think is the easiest way to waste the gift of life. I know I said the previous one was the last one, but the last one is actually the next one I'm going to be talking about in a second, which is the disconnection from self, or pretty much losing touch with our needs. We're so busy with work, with social obligations and digital distractions that we rarely take the time to tune into our own needs or our desires and emotions, and it's actually quite sad. When was the last time that you asked yourself, what do I really want? Or what do I need to feel fulfilled? Because many of us don't even know, because we've been conditioned to prioritize external expectations over internal clarity, and it's ridiculous. So how can we reconnect with ourselves? One, you're going to practice mindfulness. You're going to spend time in complete silence, and you're going to meditate, or you're going to journal, write about your thoughts and feelings to understand yourself better. Even just a few deep breaths can help you tune in, and it feels amazing. Next one is you're going to schedule alone time. You're going to use this time to reflect, to recharge, to basically recalibrate this machine. You're going to use this time to reflect, recharge, and basically recalibrate this machine that we call human. You're going to spend time without distractions, and you're going to reflect on your goals, your values, and your dreams. Literally just stare into oblivion. Allow yourself to zone out, to tune out. It's amazing how good you're going to feel. Next, you're going to set personal goals. These sound cliche, I know, but really take this advice and apply it. Don't just take it in and know it. And when I say set personal goals, these should align with your values, not societal pressures. And you won't know what personal goals to set until you spend time alone to figure out what it is you really want. So spend time alone and ask yourself reflective questions like, what truly brings me joy? Or what drains my energy? Or what do I need to prioritize? Reconnecting with yourself is the foundation for living a life that feels truly authentic and fulfilling. Because in a world that's constantly demanding our attention, it is so easy to lose touch with ourselves. And we're so busy meeting deadlines, pleasing others, and scrolling through feeds that we rarely ask, what do I need right now? So reconnect with yourself, because it's the foundation for a fulfilled life. Listen, society, it's not perfect, but neither are we humans, and that's okay. The flaws I've discussed today, from overconsumption to the disconnect with oneself, they're challenges we all face, including me. The good news is that we can overcome them, though. And the first step is always awareness. So by naming these issues and understanding the roots, we can actually start to see when and how they show up in our daily lives. And awareness alone is so powerful. It creates this mental space that's needed to decide if you want to continue down the same path or forge a new one. And then from there, the key is consistent action. So as you go about your day, I really encourage each and every one of you to observe how these themes of overconsumption or hustle show up in your surroundings. What do people around you talk about? How do they spend their time and money? Or more importantly, how do you want to show up in these contexts? The power to change starts with you because you make the call. You take the shots, and the ripples of your decisions, it can spread far beyond what you might imagine. And the beauty of tackling these flaws is that progress in one area, it actually tends to spill over into others. When you consume less, you naturally find it easier to live below your means. And these changes create a virtuous cycle, a positive feedback loop that truly enriches every single aspect of your life. Still though, it is important to note that none of us can do this perfectly. We are going to slip up, we're going to be tempted by a big sale or feel a sting of envy when someone else seems to have it all. And that's okay. Change is rarely linear. What matters is your overall trajectory and your willingness to realign whenever you drift off course. Remember, you are enough, not because of how much you hustle or how many items you own or how you compare to the person next door, but simply because you exist. And that, at the end of the day, is a message our society could stand to hear a little more often. If this episode resonated with you, I hope you can share it with someone who might need to hear it. And remember, progress, not perfection. But that is a wrap. I do hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. And if you did, please leave a review. Your feedback means so much to me. The more people this podcast reaches, the bigger the positive impact we make. So I would love it if you could do that. Also, if you guys have any recommendations as to what you'd like me to talk about in future episodes, definitely let me know because I am 100% open to recording what you guys want to hear. And if you don't know yet, I do monthly giveaways where a random person will be selected from those of you who did leave a review. The written reviews can be done over on Apple Podcasts and the ratings can be done on Spotify. Just send me a screenshot once you've done so and you'll be eligible to win. The winner is going to be announced on Instagram at Positive Proof Podcast. And if you want an extra entry into the giveaway, make sure to share this podcast or episode via socials and tag me at Parmis Najmi and again at Positive Proof Podcast on Instagram. To everyone else, if you've made it this far, I appreciate you so much and I can't wait to chat with you again in next week's episode. Lots of love, Parmis.